Hi everyone, my name is Nate Sheets with Organ Behavior Consultation, and in this video we're going to talk to you about our new cognitive skills sheet and all of the skills that are on it. And we're actually going to need to split this video up into several different pieces because there's quite a few skills and I like to keep these videos short. So we're going to talk about skills 1 through 7 on the list today. You can download a PDF of this list at the link below, and we'll put a link in the description as well. All of the skills that we're going to be learning about today are executive functioning skills, and that means that they're subject to the concept of executive functioning fuel, which we've covered in a previous video. I highly recommend that you watch that video, and we'll put a link to it in the description below. The purpose of filling out the cognitive skills sheet is that you can get a sense of where the person that you're supporting falls at in an area that covers a wide variety of skills. Cognitive skills relate to cognition, or our ability to think about the world and process what's going on around us. It's our ability to think. The list that we use is one that I have developed myself based upon a bunch of different systems as well as skills that are specific for fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. There's a lot of cognitive skills lists out there, and what we can do with them is all the same. They allow us to think ahead for what we're planning to do with the person that we're supporting and ask ourselves, what major cognitive skills does that particular activity require? We can then look at the assessment, see where the person that we're supporting falls, and ask ourselves if perhaps that is unrealistic or unreasonable without additional supports from us. And then we can put in a support to help the person be successful. These are referred to as cognitive supports, and we've given several suggestions through a lot of our different videos, and we'll continue to give more. So let's start with skill number 1, holding your attention to learn a new task. Holding your attention is a big part of getting through your everyday life, and it's a big part of the executive functioning system of the brain. Without having an attention span, you wouldn't be able to participate in a lot of activities like learning, social interactions, or anything that required an extended amount of time. Many people with FASD and other developmental conditions and mental health issue have difficulties in holding their attention. So how this might play out in their everyday life would be us trying to teach them a concept, let's say at school, and because they don't have the attention span, they're either going to look bored or they're going to actively resist you trying to teach them because they don't have the ability to listen and learn right now. If we look at just the surface level refusal, we might say they're being defiant or they're being oppositional or they are not interested in the subject matter, when really what they need is cognitive support around attention. We can provide cognitive supports around attention by giving extra time to do work, by giving frequent breaks, and by really taking care of people's sensory needs. Sitting still for long periods of time is difficult, and sometimes with a lot of movement, we can help ourselves learn a little bit better. To support somebody who has a small attention span in learning something, you're going to have to keep times of learning short, especially to start out. You might have to give some people something like 5 minutes of learning time, then followed by a 1-minute break, and then you just keep going back and forth doing that, trying to get them to learn the material. Over time, our goal would be to help them do 6 minutes of learning time and then 7 minutes of learning time, so we can hopefully improve their ability to hold their attention a little bit longer. We also have to keep in mind how other cognitive skill challenges may impact attention span. For example, if you're not able to regulate your sensory system and you start to become overstimulated, you're not going to be able to pay attention to learn something new. Also, we want to keep receptive communication in mind. That's your ability to process communication. If that struggles for you and you can't process verbal communication very well, that's going to impact your attention span and overall your ability to learn as well. The second task is similar to the first task. It's holding your attention to complete an everyday task. So what we're asking here is how the person does when what they're doing is very familiar to them. Some people with familiarity can actually improve their attention span in certain areas because there's not as many unknowns, there's not as many anxieties that come with unknowns, and it's just a routine at this point. Routines are natural anxiety reducers, which is why we really encourage most of our clients to be on a familiar routine. Sometimes that is a written routine, other times it's informal, but something that's predictable can really be helpful. Some people with attention span issues can't hold their attention even for things that we know that they know how to do. Sometimes it's because they're bored because it's not new, and other times it's just because they have difficult cognitive abilities in holding their attention. To support somebody whose attention struggles, even when what they're doing is familiar, we're going to use a lot of the same supports that we just mentioned for task number 1. holding your attention to learn a new task. Frequent breaks, predictability, and continual practice are going to hopefully help to improve this skill. The third skill we're going to discuss today is working memory. Working memory is a concept that talks about our ability to learn information for what we need to do right now, and then manipulate and hold on to that information in a way that will help us figure out a situation. A really good example of working memory is the old 80s game Simon. You play the game by having the device flash you one of the 4 colors, and once it flashes you a color, you press it. And then the game takes the color that it just gave you and then adds another one onto it, and then you copy that and push the buttons on the device. As the chain gets longer and longer, your brain has to utilize working memory, and as Simon shows us, we only have a limited capacity to hold a lot of information in our brains. Some people with FASD or other situations going on may have even a smaller amount of working memory capacity than those of us who are neurotypical would have. Visuals are a really good support for working memory. When you have a visual showing you the information, your brain doesn't have to struggle to remember it. Low working memory might be another reason why the person that you're supporting might suddenly refuse to stop doing a task. When we're not able to think in a way that we need to, it becomes frustrating. And of course, they may not have the words telling you, I have a working memory issue going on right now, or I have a lack of attention issue going on right now. We have to look beyond the surface and try to figure out what cognitive skills are coming into play. Skill number 4 on the cognitive skills list is referred to generally as transitioning. That is, going from one activity or environment to another. Now, for most of us, this doesn't even seem like a skill. We can go from one activity or environment to another pretty easily, and in rare situations it might be difficult if something unexpected comes up, but even then we can adapt pretty quickly. For many people with FASD and other developmental conditions, transitioning even from familiar things to other familiar things is actually difficult. In most situations, the more familiar the transition is, the easier it goes. But in everyday life, we have a significant number of unexpected transitions. There's a lot of supports that we can put into place when it comes to transitioning. Routines, visualized routines, verbal cues, nonverbal cues before each transition, practicing transitions proactively before we're actually in the situation. There's a lot of different things that we can do. When it comes to unexpected transitions, that is how we adapt when the plan has to change, we're going to save that for a future skill. Skill number 5 is keeping calm even when you're getting frustrated, stressed out, or overstimulated. We refer to this simply as emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is a critical executive functioning skill which many people can struggle with at different times in life. The limbic system, which is in the middle of the brain, contains a series of structures which are known as the emotional part of the brain. How we let that emotion influence our behavior will be dependent on a lot of factors, including our emotional regulation abilities in the executive functioning part of the brain. People who struggle with emotional regulation will oftentimes react to stressors that for most of us don't seem like a big deal. There could be many different reasons why this might be happening, so we don't want to always assume that it's just a cognitive skill issue here. Trauma and many other mental health issues lead to a decrease in this skill, sometimes inconsistently, which means that people might be able to handle their emotions better on one day, and then on another day, the same stressors would send them into escalation much sooner. When it comes to specific supports around emotional regulation, there's a lot of different angles you can take. Firstly, we want to decrease the number of stressors. Then we also want to come up with alternative behaviors or coping strategies to do once you get upset. And thirdly, we want to help the person be able to plan around potentially emotional situations, or at least be aware that they're about to happen. We can do this by following the concepts of proactive conversations and proactive plans. Skill number 6 is directly related to emotional regulation, and it's helpful to know before you start using the proactive conversation and proactive plan method. And that is, how is the person after making a plan with you on how they're going to change their behavior, actually able to follow through on that plan once the time has gone by and once they're actually in the moment. Many people, if you make a plan with them and just have a conversation about it, they're not going to be able to actually remember the conversation in the moment and apply that knowledge to change their behavior. Skill number 7, which is the last skill that we'll be addressing in this video, is selective attention, or your ability not to get distracted. If you already struggle with attention issues, then it makes sense that you're going to be easily distracted by things going on in your environment. But selective attention doesn't just have to do with external kinds of distractions, it also has to do with internal distractions, such as things that you're thinking about, or maybe even mental health issues that are going on in your head at the moment. When people are distracted, they can't hold their attention, which means that their learning or their ability to problem solve or their ability to emotionally regulate may be lowered. When it comes to supports for distractibility, the biggest thing you can do is simply reduce the distractions. This means when you're talking to somebody who might be easily distracted, make sure that the radio isn't on, or that the television isn't on, or that there are other people talking in the moment. Having a quiet environment that's completely silent may work for some people, and other people might need to have some kind of noise to filter out any other specific smaller noises coming in. If someone is so distracted with internalized things that are going on because they're thinking about something or there's a mental health issue going on, you might have to adjust your expectations for what you're expecting of them right now. We hope that you found this video on the first 7 skills of the cognitive skills list helpful. Again, you can find the PDF of this list at our website, which we will link to in the description below. If you found this video helpful or interesting, it really helps us if you share it on your social media sites. We appreciate everybody who likes, shares, and comments on our videos. By doing so, you help other people see it in their news feeds on Facebook, and it helps with other social media sites as well. Keep an eye out for the second video in this series, in which we're going to talk about the rest of the executive functioning skills on the cognitive skills list. Thanks for watching.